Hi, today I have a message called Shining Behind Everything. So, first, open up the door to Spirit to show you how to see everything. And this is in any situation. I'll give you one. I was listening to a man talk about his spiritual awakening, and I noticed I felt just terrible. Just terrible. And I had to, even though it seemed like he was talking about something good, what came up in me was a terrible feeling. So I had to work with, excuse me, any thoughts that were emerging, any thoughts of inadequacy or not being there or not being as far, or trying to define myself in a way that, no, really, I'm further. It was just ridiculous and nothingness. All of those thoughts, but that's what surfaced very quickly and very intensely, so I had to work with it. And then after working with it, then I could open up the door to Spirit to show me how to see everything. And I know that in my misidentification, I don't know how to see anything, not a single thing. And that seems to be what has deepened the awareness, but the calm awareness that I just don't know how to see anything or define it, or I wouldn't want to limit anything. To define it seems to be to limit it. So with anything that seems to be bad surfacing, that door that we can open is right behind it, but it's like a defense we're used to throwing up, or like our automatically, it's like ego kind of works on automatic and it throws up defenses. So right before you get to something that would help you, sometimes you'll run into one of these defenses, like, I'm going to throw this shield up so you don't get there. Well, right behind every defense is this. It's the same door. We just open it to Spirit, and it seems like we look a little bit longer than we did before. We deepen a little bit further. We accept a little bit more. And so a strong defense popping up. A strong defense popping up can actually be a good sign, because right behind it, here's this door. We've maybe only been opening up a crack now and then. We can open it up to Spirit and basically depend upon Spirit for everything, making fewer of what we perceive to be our own decisions and simply allowing Spirit, and therefore seeing Spirit in everyone and everything. It seems a little challenging when you seem to see it a lot in one particular person. It's hard for me to describe. Doubt comes in because something seems so unequal. So that doubt has to be addressed. And the awareness that we cannot chop up, slice and dice and analyze any aspect of the illusion. We really don't know. To experience illusion is not to know that our perception of somebody, whether they appear to be enlightened or unenlightened, is just so wrong. It's just so, because we have sliced and diced and separated and we truly don't get it. But when we get the hang of, it's like there's this door in my heart, and when I don't feel good, I have closed the door to it. I can open that up, and I can keep it open. And when I don't feel good, it's like I've closed it. So it's like learning how to keep this door open all the time. And it's always a joy to open this door. It's always very helpful to open this door. So to understand that you have closed it because it's sort of a reflex, we teach ourselves to close this door and to try to manage things ourselves, and that we could possibly be happy without what we are, without the awareness of what we are. Every time we pull this door open, it's a joy. So we can kind of see our day that way. Just be a door person. Make sure your door's open. And I know it can seem much worse than that when you run into a terrible feeling and it seems so real. But in the end, when you understand it's just a defense before you open your door, then it's not such a terrible thing. It's just, okay, we made up this thing, and defending our fantasy is a deep habit for us. But it's a deep habit we're allowing to be exposed, and we're allowing this deep habit to dissolve by looking at it. So open up the door to Spirit to show you how to see everything. So stepping into our day, we really, as our misapprehension, as our misidentification as something separate that could be compared to another thing, identifying as that we don't know how to see anything at all. We really don't know how to look at anything. But with this door in our heart open, we're just shown, or our world is shown to us in the way it's supposed to be shown to us. So there is something here to trust in, and we're all learning to trust in it together, because everywhere you look, there you are. So you wouldn't let your pinky wake up without your thumb, right? It all feeling comes back to to your whole body as a metaphor, right? Just a metaphor, because we've used the perception of body as a limit. I wouldn't want to lean on that too much, but we let awakening come to our whole being, and wherever we look, that's what we see. That seems to be so important. Wherever we look, that's what we see. Whenever you see something scary, it's ego's attempt to cover up the love of God, which is shining behind everything. And so we would attempt to cover up that love of God with an illusion. We're playing with illusions. And when we bump into a not good feeling, it's some form of fear. Some form of fear. Even if it's jealousy or anger, we're still using fear to block what's here. Just out of habit. It's just an old habit. And the only thing we could cover up is the love of God, which is the only thing that's here. And why would I say love of God? To differentiate it between what the ego says is love, which is like, I'm going to get this for myself and benefit from it, and it excludes everyone and everything. The love of God includes everyone and everything, and that's why it's so big and so powerful and so here and so available, no matter how much we try to cover it up. And we do try to cover it up. So a not good feeling means I'm just trying to cover up the love of God again. But now that I can see it that way, I can see how useless that is. So whenever you see something scary, it's ego's attempt to cover up the love of God, which is shining behind everything, with an illusion. So I'll still use illusions, and I'll use them to cover up the something beautiful that we all share that's shining behind everything. Why would I want to do that? It'd be very silly to try to cover that up. Our step forward, our thumbs up, is we can see how silly it would be to try to cover up the love of God. So now that attempt which seems automatic for us. It seems natural. It seems like a defense of something we should defend. It can be seen and it can power down. It can dissolve. Together, we can see and acknowledge what's actually here, what's shining behind all of the illusions. We can do that together. So seeing our defense attempt is not bad if we're looking at it and see and recognize this is what's powering down. This is what's dissolving. And its replacement is what's always been here. It's not like it's being replaced because it's not real. Our defense attempt or our fear is the not real part. It's not really being replaced by the love of God, because the love of God it's always been here, but in our awareness, it is being replaced. Ego fears, you do not. So isn't it nice that our one self is not fearful and is everywhere and everything and can be relied upon in every instant, in every seeming situation. So that self that is over there, that seems to be somebody else's self, isn't fearful, even if that person appears to be fearful. So it's like I shoot out a projection of fear. I might see a fearful person, but what's the being behind the person, shining behind the person eternally? Eternally not fearful, because fear isn't real. And no matter how many times and permutations and versions of it I experience today, that's the not real part. And it helps to just take a moment to acknowledge that. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. Ego fears, you do not. So in a sense, you've never been afraid, because fear couldn't happen. We've imagined being afraid, and we've imagined the effects of being afraid. It seems very real to us, so we're guided through and out of it as if it's real. But ego fears, and ego's nothing. You'll never be nothing. And anyone and anything you look at, they'll never be nothing. What's here is always here. It's eternal. But what we can allow to be rinsed off them in our sight is what has never been here. Fear's never been here. We've invited the illusion of it. Now we can let it get washed off. And what's behind it is entirely reliable. And taking a moment to recognize that when we seem to have some dissension, some conflict. Somebody came to mind, and I felt like, this resurfaced, this sense of not being at ease with this one. Resurfaced. I'm not feeling peace. And if I remember that as a being, that one does not fear. As a being, I do not fear. We're connected. You can't be connected by fear. Fear is the illusion that would make you seem separate when you're not and never could be. So when I take a moment to look at it that way, the fears are relevant. I just see things as they are for a moment. And that reorientation can help me understand what is it I'm supposed to think, do, say today. And then it will come to me more easily. When you try to keep yourself safe, you try to keep an illusion of yourself safe from other illusions. So it's not like we have to try to not keep ourselves safe. I put on a seatbelt yesterday. Not really thinking too much about that. But when I don't feel good, there's an attempt to keep my distorted version of myself, which is not real, to keep that safe, to keep that in place, to help that survive. and that's not necessary. So whenever I don't feel good, I'm trying to keep this sense of separate self going, and that's not a job I have to do. I can retire from that job. So there's a big relief. There's something we can take off our to-do list. Keep my sense of separate self real seeming and impeccably maintained. No, I don't have to do it. Thank goodness. Okay, when you try to keep yourself safe, you try to keep an illusion of yourself safe from other illusions. So we're doing all this work because we believe there are all these separate things at play here, and we have to be guided through what looks separate. We still seem to be a body. We still need to speak and act, it seems. And what's going to be the clearest conduit for guiding that? Well, thought causes the perception of speech and action. Thought causes all of that perception. And when I notice I'm trying to keep myself safe in some way, I feel disturbed, then I can tune. It is the same thing I always talk about. It's just the same thing. Tune into the thought that benefits everyone, not the thought that's trying to make a separate self distinct and keep it safe, but the thought that's here to benefit everyone. That will very naturally cause my perception of speech and action and beings, however they're appearing. And it's so general, we have no idea, but the things that come to mind are so simple. Guidance can guide. So I'm either going to have fear's guidance or love's guidance. So whenever I need to, I can stop and reorient. Okay, I'm reorienting toward love's guidance. Ego has no idea what that is. Ego has no idea what love is, even though it has its own version. So in a sense, as I'm misidentifying, I have to turn toward what I don't, as that identification, toward what I don't understand at all, and trust it. Okay, you do not have to force action. So forcing action comes from fear. And we can let that be uncovered. If we have a habit of forcing action, that's okay, because we can watch the habit, and we can watch the thoughts that go into forcing the actions, into trying to control a day. And we can one by one just highlight them, let the light shine on them. Set them aside, see what comes into that space. So just be very gentle and patient with ourselves as we move through the day. And if we prioritize stopping, no matter how much the flow of the day wants to claim our attention, if we're not feeling good, if we're feeling tense and stressed, if we take that time to stop, to explore what's going on here. And sometimes it seems we can't, and we can still develop the ability to explore. Okay, I'm believing this. I could turn my attention towards something else and ask that something else for help. So I'm believing this ego thought, but maybe I can turn my attention toward, I accept my part in God's plan for salvation. And you don't have to use the God language or the salvation language. There's something happening for all of us. There's something beneficial happening for all of us. And I'm going to turn my attention toward that, just in this moment, and then see what comes from that. I just keep turning my attention toward what is really here for all, toward the goodness without opposite, that everything and everyone are together, their true nature, despite how anything appears. I'll just keep turning toward it for a second or two. So our ability to stop and turn toward what's real, turn toward what's unified, no matter what words you give it, you don't have to use religious language. I just like using the lessons from A Course in Miracles because I find safety in that order and structure, the seeming order and structure of it. Will I eventually drop that? I have no idea. But it seems fine for now. It seems not disturbing for now. So I'll continue in that way. But there would have been a time in my life when I wouldn't have been able to do that at all. And what I did at that point was the work of Byron Katie, and I would ask myself, who would I be without that thought? So every time I'd still worked with thought, but I would ask myself, who would I be without that thought? So however you do it, however you stop to turn away momentarily from what is unreal toward what is real, it's like every time we admit, I have no idea what I'm doing. Show me the way. So we're all doing this together. We're all engaged in this together. We all wake up together. Okay, is there anything more I need to say? You do not have to force action. Just that forcing idea in general, any heaviness, any push. Time is gentle with us when we use it for stopping, and time will be gentle with you. So when you feel a push like that, if you can stop. And like yesterday, I was supposed to be listening to something very happy, someone's talking about a spiritual awakening, and I felt the worst push within me, this push to try to define that or limit that other in my perception, and stopping to address it really helped. Instead of thinking, well, no, it's beneficial to listen to this person, I could learn or unlearn something, I'll make myself keep listening. Stopping was far more important. It didn't matter whether I continued to listen to that person. Stopping to reorient was the most important thing. So whenever I catch myself trying to force something, a should, if I can stop instead, Spirit knows what's good for all of us. Spirit knows what we need. Spirit knows the direction in which to point us. And we can trust that. It's here for us. It's here for everybody. So we can trust that everybody's taken care of in the same way. Okay, hope that was helpful, and happy healing.